What's up, guys? My name is Charles Horace, host and owner to Whatislife.blog. Today we are doing the post podcast with episode number 1 guest, Mathias Storme Milford. This guy right here. All right, so Mathias, it's been about 3 months since the episode released on August 16. So far, you've had about maybe 500 views on Instagram and over 300 views on YouTube. Roughly add that up to about 900 views in total. That's about 900 people that have seen your content and have heard about your story as a strongman competition. So since it's been 3 months, what have you been up to?
So 3 months is actually a long time. A lot's gone on in 3 months. So yes, we did the big national competition. My wife and I traveled out to North Carolina, Concord. We competed, had our best showing, I would say, for both of us at the national level. Finished in the top 15 for both of us. Nationally, had no injuries, which is usually always a big plus. But by far for myself, physically, mentally, everything, all the prep gave me my biggest and best showing, and really seeing where I stacked up, bumping up a weight class. So the even bigger super heavyweights, and being able to actually hold my own in that competition was one of the highlights and something that we worked for and enjoyed. And now we basically just take that next step. 2 weeks right after, went to another competition out in Rio Rancho, and I actually broke the 2 state records that I was shooting for from our previous podcasts. And so that's the New Mexico state record for deadlift. I was able to hit that at 765 pounds, and was also able to break the New Mexico state record for log overhead press, which was at 335 pounds. So 2 state records, got the nationals qualification again for next year because I took first overall, and that nationals competition will be out in Iowa. 2 weeks after that, I got a chance to compete in the first annual ceremonial deadlift. That was a part of the Gallup ceremonial. Took first, won a small 500 cash prize. Used it very well, but very cool environment to be a part of the ceremonial festivities. It was downtown in front of the courthouse. So we not only had gym individuals that were there to watch, but we had a lot of the general public that were there for arts crawl, that were there for the arts market, that were just walking by and seeing all these people lifting some weight. And the announcer was one of the top announcers for like ceremonial, some of the rodeos around here. And just having that environment, Rain and I were joking when we listened back to some of the videos where, man, the hype that he was bringing felt like I was coming out of the chutes. Everything was cool. So basically 3 comps. Since we last talked about the podcast, was able to end that summer portion where I was wanting to sit, got the 2 state records, and now we're pretty much just pushing to the end of the year. I do have the goal of hitting an 800-pound deadlift and overhead pressing 400 pounds. So that's what I've been working on, and that'll wrap up the end of this year. And then we get ready for next year's nationals.
Right on. That's pretty cool. Well, you did one podcast, and, who knows what the future looks like. But if you were to do another podcast, whether with me or with someone else, what do you think you'd be talking about?
Yeah, definitely. I think doing that first podcast for me was really taking that step and getting that level of exposure, with the community, with those that you and I have on social, basically sharing through that platform on what you're doing with the podcast, and basically what I got going on, to check in with a lot of people that we've either grown up with, that we've crossed paths with, basically just doing that like life check-in on what we're doing. But yeah, I'd definitely be open to doing another one, whether it's talking about fitness, whether it's talking about health. I know I've got a chance to, with Seihotsu Medical Center, with the health promotion, disease prevention, I've got a chance to talk about mental health, more so like from a male perspective. So I'd be more than happy to, talk on that a bit, and anything through, I feel like, different things through my life, sports, growing up with a single mom. A lot of those things I feel like are good topics and good relating points for a lot of individuals, male and growing up in poverty, and, going through private school and going through college and, building a career. I'd be more than happy to, jump in on a lot of those different topics and conversations and get some of that exposure, because I feel like I've ultimately got a chance to live in a lot of that to have a lot of that experience. And I feel like, yes, the fitness portion is my passion, but I would love to be able to take that opportunity and have that opportunity to be in a different topic series for a podcast. Maybe it's education or leaving the reservation. There's a lot of avenues I feel like out there that would create some of those like topic points. And having this first podcast, really having that exposure, I would love to be able to share more, whether that's about my own experiences, my life, or even be able to chime in with others who have gone through the same things or have similar life experiences, career experiences. But yes, this podcast first episode was very solid, and gave me a chance to share some of that in a different platform, a different limelight.
Again, thank you for being my first guest. I greatly appreciate it. It was with your episode that we're skyrocketing, moving forward with this podcast series, and couldn't have done without you. So thank you. All right. So now we are going to do some video lifts.
Yeah. Kind of show some behind the scenes things here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go and check that out. All right. So we have the setup here right in front of us here. Mathias, what kind of lift is this?
So this is going to be a log clean and press. So basically I would take this log from the ground, and I'm actually going to bring it to the high point of my chest, shoulders, and I'm going to press this weight overhead. Can be done various ways, either strict press. You can have a little bit of a kick with the knees. But basically, this is one of the big events in the sport of strongman, is a log overhead press, and basically being able to take a really heavy weight and press it overhead.
And your setup here, you got some sleeves here and some wrist things. What are those?
So basically just some support equipment. Over the years, as I've got into a little bit more heavier lifting, I've also been always taking safety, a big thing. So I do have what is considered the top line Gucci belts in strength sport, SPD belt. I do have some wrist wraps and some elbow sleeves. So just to have some of that extra support for moving heavy weight, having some of that support in my elbows and my wrists. Not to say like I have any of the joint pain, but it just provides some of that extra warmth in the joints and allows for some of that fluidity through some movement. So just some extra support. But I also like to highlight that I do train without it, because I also don't want my body to have to rely on things like a belt. I also like to move without some of this supportive equipment and make my body have to go through its natural bracing.
Right on. And you got some sliders on. Are you going to lift with some sliders, or what's with this?
So if you can see, people out there in the world, when I train here at home, now this is probably just for home gym specific. I know some gyms allow you to train without shoes, but I actually like to train barefoot when I'm here at the house or in our garage setup. When it comes to strength sport, really trying to get toward the most stable, most fluid is actually being barefoot and having what's called a tripod foot allow for those areas of your feet, your heels, 2 points of your base of your toes. You do get a lot of that support. And with lifting, squatting, deadlifting, you'll see, a lot of lifters will go for the flat shoes. So like Vans, Converse, there's even lifting shoes out there that provide flat support. For me, having a little bit of a home gym, barefoot's the way to go, and it's the most optimal for lifting, I feel like. And again, get a little bit of that pleasure having my own setup.
Right on. All right, let's get to it then. Let's go see this lift. All right, dude, that's pretty impressive, dude. How much was that? Like, how much weight would you say, roughly?
This is, I want to say 200.
What? Oh my gosh,
180?
dude.
190?
180. I mean, still,
over,
yeah.
Yeah, it's over 150 for sure.
Jeez. Okay. I think the most I can do is probably 70 or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, like I said, this is a little bit on the light end, but again, just going through the motions, and this is the lift that I have the New Mexico State record in.
Right on. Okay, cool. Thanks, Mathias. I appreciate it. Till next time, man.